A very good Tuesday morning to everyone out there. Welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. The chat is already buzzing. Some things I absolutely need to address, but I also need to address the recap screen. Let's see how we did yesterday. Primetime show picks, morning show picks, 6 and 7. You know, we obviously want to do better than that. Me and Mike come through. Larry comes through. Will Brinson, shout out to him. 3 out of 4. Absolutely love to see that. A lot of us were on that Texans -7. Felt like a layup, was a layup. Either way, we got to do better than 6 and 7, and we're going to do it with all of you, of course, all your picks in the chat, all your questions in the chat, but also the stars of the show. Let's bring them in right now. We got Buckets, we got Mackenzie Brooks, and we got Erik Kuselias back with us. EK, I got to ask you something because I'm noticing in the chat, Jeff Sternberg, he's a longtime Early Edge chat member, part of the family. He won our FFT DFS contest last week, the one I put out that anybody can join for $5. He says, if Sia fades Jason Tatum today, he's dead to me. Now, we have some Boston plays, so stay tuned, everybody. But there's an inside joke here, EK, because I gave out on Friday my top 3 JTs. It was Justin Timberlake, Jonathan Taylor-Thomas, and Jonathan Taylor. And Jeff took umbrage that Jason Tatum wasn't in that top 3. EK, is Jason Tatum in your top 3 JTs?
I mean, how do you knock Jonathan Taylor-Thomas out? I mean,
Right.
that's just a right there. And yeah, I always thought Justin Timberlake was a little overrated. He was the guy, you're not allowed to say anything bad about him. There's only one problem. When I'm in the car, if I have the radio on, I don't know if there's 3 Justin Timberlake songs that I go, shh, hold on, we got to hear this.
Yeah.
I'm more of a flip guy. So I will put Jason Tatum in and take Justin Timberlake out. I know it may be controversial, but that's where I'm headed.
I'll tell you what, Mackenzie Brooks, you're always good at like the name dropping and stuff. I'm a big JC over JT guy. And I'll say this, in DC just 3 weeks ago, I had drinks with JC, got to meet him, hang out with him a little bit. So A, are you impressed? And B, are you a Justin Timberlake girl?
A, definitely impressed. 2 claps for you, C. I love that for you. I am pretty upset about the Justin Timberlake take. I think he is one of the most talented performers in recent history. I've seen him in concert 1 or 2 times, and he has like 12-minute songs and just like rips through all of them on stage. Very impressive stuff.
Buckets, do you know who any of these people are?
I'm just waiting until we talk about soccer, man. I can't name a single JT. I can't name a single JC. I'm here for the footy, baby.
It would have been great if you knew who Jonathan Taylor-Thomas was. But, okay, that's actually a really good segue to finally getting to some official picks. Buckets, start us off with some soccer.
Sia, today is the final match day of the Nations League, and I know that all of us are so ready for international break to be over and for domestic league to return. But before that happens, I have to help us all cash 2 more tickets this week, and we're going to start with the matchup between the Czech Republic taking on Georgia. Now, if I was the kind of guy who liked to be a little mischievous with my takes and like to maybe make things seem better than they are, I would tell you that every time these 2 teams have played in history between Georgia and Czech Republic, both teams' score has hit every single time, 100%. And while that is true, they've only played twice, so it's a little bit fudged there. But what I will say is I still love both teams to score, because whoever wins this match wins Group B and advances to Group A, which means out of the 6 matches they've played so far, this is the only one that really matters. When they played last time, Georgia swamped Czech Republic 4-1, so they will be looking for revenge. But we do have 2 of the best offenses in Group B and 2, surprisingly, of the worst defenses. So take both teams to score at -110 all day on this one. Then for our second bet, I had to get a little bit tricky with this one. We've got Hungary versus Germany. Germany has already won the group. They are the best team by far. Last time they played Hungary, they absolutely mauled them. It was just an ugly matchup. But manager Julian Nagelsmann has stated that he is going to rest a lot of their big players and only bring them on if they need them into the second half. Hungary, meanwhile, are going to play defensive. They're going to park the bus, and they're just going to try not to embarrass themselves. I'm taking there to be more goals in the second half than the first half. It's currently priced at -110 on MGM, and this game might be 0-0 until the 60th minute. Then Germany makes a couple subs, and the game ends 4-0. That's how good Germany is, but I'm expecting a slow start, so a weird one, but at -110, we got to take it, Sia.
All right, we have a question from Jeff Sternberg. Buckets, I don't know if you've looked at this game. He says, how do we feel about Wimbledon-Accrington? Both teams to score -115.
So he's asking about a second or third division English game, and you actually can't bet that league in Ohio, so I cannot actually tail this with my own money, but I will say that Wimbledon right now during break has been a BTTS machine, so I do like it, but just know that, Jeff, that I can't tail it myself.
All right. It looks like Brad Betts likes the play as well here. He says that might be one of his official plays too. Okay, that's great. If you want to make that play, if you're not in Ohio and you can make that play or any of the buckets plays that he just gave out, go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you will receive up to $1,500 instantly. If your bet loses with bonus code EDGE, that's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. I got to give a shout out to BetMGM too, because it's not just that promo. They have promos all the time for all these primetime games. Really good stuff. Side note, recap screen didn't show the SGP, the plus 656 SGP. We would have hit it if we didn't have the concussion with Jake Ferguson. He only did 25 total yards, got one catch, got the concussion, and was out. But you could have boosted that plus 550 promo to plus 656 just by virtue of using a BetMGM promo. They are everywhere. We've got picks everywhere. We're going to hear them right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
All right, we're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. And EK, the NBA is getting hot and heavy. College basketball is getting hot and heavy. You've got a pick in each. Let's get started.
All right, well, no sense messing around with some of the lesser games. Let's go with the marquee game in college and then the marquee game in the NBA. And I realize I'm sort of putting my Joe Public hat here, but every once in a while, that's the smart play. So let's go Purdue Marquette, and I'm going to take Marquette at home here. Marquette at home has been absolutely cash worthy, 9-1 in their last 10. This could be a little bit of a flat spot for Purdue as well. They're coming off that big win against Bama. And then the last thing is, I really like the actual X's and O's matchup for Marquette. Purdue's going to dominate in certain aspects, but Marquette is going to dominate the Purdue backcourt. They have better guards in this spot, and they should be able to get out, run, and make it very tough on the Boilermakers. So I'm going to officially take Marquette minus 5.5. I would be okay taking Marquette in the money line. I would be okay Marquette first half, and I would even be okay Marquette team total 78.5 if you can get it. I bet you can't get it in Ohio, though. Anyway, Celtics. I also like the Celtics and this marquee matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland's undefeated, right? And they're coming in, and this is the one everybody's looking at. The whole public, we're going to take the Celtics. So am I. Here's the thing. Cleveland's a little banged up. Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, both left last game with injuries. Boston needs this or they are done for the NBA Cup. And this is sort of that really rare game where that Boston defense is going to dig in and show up. The fascinating things about these two teams is they are traditionally defensive teams, right? You think Cleveland, you think defense. You think Celtics, you think they have that great defense. Cleveland's actually number one in the NBA in scoring, putting up $124 a game. Boston gave up 76 in the first half to Toronto. Here's what's going to happen tonight, though. The Celtics are going to dig in the hub, on defense. That's where you're going to see the effort. That's where the difference is going to show up. Celtics will win because Cleveland will not get to their usually $1.25 they've been getting on everybody else.
Yeah, I kind of like this play. I like the fact that Cleveland is undefeated. I think it gives, I mean, I know we have the NBA Cup and everything, but I think it gives Boston the proper motivation to like sort of early season establish themselves as the alphas, at least for a night. Kenza, I saw you kind of nodding your head here. Do we potentially have a model that agrees with this pick?
Yeah, absolutely. We love this pick too. Again, I mean, just to stay undefeated is an objectively hard thing to do. I mean, they're shooting like 60% just from the field, over 45% from deep. Like at some point that has to come back down to earth, at least just a little. And I think that the Celtics defense will be the one to humble them there. Put a prop in the chat as well. Jason Tatum, the past 10 games against Cleveland, 8-2 to the over 1.5 blocks and steals. So seems to have some success against them there. Also looking at Darius Garland, could be correlated over 2.5 turnovers is plus money over at BetMGM. He's averaging 2.9 since last season, 9-6 to this over, in his last 15. So something to be noted there if you like any of those plays. But yeah, certainly with EK on Boston here.
I love the extra plays. Buckets, go ahead.
Got a question for Ken's and EK then. Should I cash out my Cavaliers to have a perfect season at plus 50,000 that I placed at FanDuel, or does that still have a chance?
I will always support a take like that, and I am not here to rain on your parade. Prove us wrong, Buckets.
Yeah, prove us wrong. But it always comes back to Jason Tatum and JT's. By the way, there was Eric David in the chat. He's like, hey, you left out James Taylor. Well, I only gave out a top 3. If you have your notifications turned on for me, as we get the head roll, the eye roll, and the no from EK, I did have to deliver a top 10 in response to Jeff Sternberg taking umbrage with my Jason Tatum thing. And James Taylor was inside my top 10. So if you have a favorite JT, put him in the chat. EK, what's the response to James Taylor?
I once lost / ended / gave up a relationship because I would not go to a James Taylor acoustic show. I'm like, I'd rather go to the dentist who doesn't use Novocaine. No. I've not seen Fire. I've not seen Rain. I don't want to thank you for being a friend. It is the most beer lifestyle soft music of all time.
Yeah.
No.
That soft music, you either love it or you hate it. And I actually am sort of in the hate category. I'm like more of like a Linkin Park guy, like the opposite of James Taylor. But anyway, you mentioned, public plays, EK. That actually filters into my play. I was on the public play yesterday. I'm sure I got some criticism in the chat when I was on the Texans -7. Oh, that's too easy. That's where the public is. Well, they won 34-10. So sometimes the public actually wins. If you look at the percentages between the sharp money and the public money, it's not as wide a gap as you think. I'm on the Steelers. That's going to be the public play because the Browns only have 2 wins. They only have 2 wins to their credit because Deshaun Watson started most of those games. But the Jameis Winston experience, while totally fun and while the offense has been way more engaging, it's still not a good football team. You got this Pittsburgh team. It's a division game, so I don't think there's going to be any letdown as they come off that Ravens win. You got the weather that's going to be an issue here. And the weather it gave me a little bit of pause because this total is coming down. It started at 41. Now it's at like 36.5. Either way, when you get Jameis Winston in the rain and the wind and an offense and defense that just got beat up, especially the defense beat up by the New Orleans Saints, that everybody thought the Browns were going to roll in that game. Remember? I just think the Steelers are too strong. I think Jameis Winston's going to turn the ball over. I don't think the offense is dynamic enough to beat the Steelers, and I think the Steelers will be able to put up 14, 17, 20 points in this one. That'll be enough, especially if they get to 17 or 20 to cover this spread. So give me the Steelers -3.5. Speaking of the Steelers, EK, there was a question from Mark Buckholz. He said, do you think the Steelers are going to win the AFC North? Your thoughts?
Well, they certainly obviously got the head-to-head, and they'll have a second one later in Baltimore. This is going to come down to what they do in the division. You got to play Cincinnati twice. You got to play Baltimore. I would actually take Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And I realize I'm playing at a disadvantage here, but I always say, we had this discussion yesterday where I was saying, I don't know who the Steelers are. Like, they're a hard team to go. Are they a good offensive team? I don't know. Are they still an elite defensive team? I think so. I don't know. But I will take the certainty of Lamar Jackson, of Harbaugh, of Derrick Henry. I will take Baltimore to find their way through this.
Yeah, I'll say this about Pittsburgh's schedule. I mean, I think they play Cincinnati final game of the season. At that point, Cincinnati's not playing anybody. You're not going to see Jamar Chase. You might not even see Joe Burrow. Maybe not T. Higgins. So I think that's sort of like a free win that they potentially have. I mean, we can look at the schedules for Baltimore and see if they have any sort of freebies down the stretch. But Baltimore has to play in Los Angeles this week. They're a 3-point favorite. I think that's too many. We'll talk about that later in the week. But, I mean, I don't know. I just think Baltimore seems very vulnerable, but you're getting the plus money, EK, to your point. You're getting the plus money on Baltimore at this point, whereas they were a huge favorite. I think they were -200 before that Steelers game. Speaking of huge favorites, we go to the NBA. Kens, we got this Lakers game. Lakers -10.5. What's the play?
We're going to lay them with the Lakers here. I actually think this can be a pretty comfortable double-digit win for them. This is a team that specifically at home is awesome to back right now. I mean, even just the points allowed compared to last year at home have been phenomenal, just allowing 113 at home. And you're looking at a Utah Jazz team, A, without Walker Kessler, and B, that just isn't putting up as many points as they were last year. I mean, they were 116 per game last year, now just down to 107. And again, this Lakers team shooting well from deep. You got AD shooting well from deep. You got LeBron shooting around 42%. Even the rookie, Dalton Knecht, is shooting really well too. So again, just a team I like at home. And this Utah Jazz team, just a lot of reasons to fade right now and not a lot of answers for AD. So that's why I want to go to Anthony Davis here, over 15.5 rebounds and assists. This is everything about a buy low spot. Okay. He's 1-7 to this in his past 8 games. It's been gross all year for him, but against Utah specifically is where he finds success. He's averaging over 20 rebounds and assists against this team, 3-0 to this over when he's playing Utah. Again, no Walker Kessler, and just this team in general playing so much better at home. Those assists should really start raking in here. So around even money, I think that's a really great price for this. The SportsLine model makes the number 17.
All right. Mark Buckholt says, not a Lakers fan at all, but Dalton Knecht can shoot. He's exciting. I mean,
I'm a fan of him.
I am too. And I wasn't necessarily a fan of him in college. Not that I wasn't a fan, but he adds a scoring element to this Lakers team. I feel like if the Lakers can maybe add one additional piece, they could be very, very relevant down the stretch. Buckets, it was funny. Speaking of soccer buckets, Brad Betts came in here with a really funny comment. He said, Bronny James has been the difference for the Lakers. Buckets, anything on the pitch that you need to clean up? Any answers you need to provide?
I thought you were about to ask me my opinions on Bronny James or the Lakers, and I was like,
Feel
dude,
free.
stop asking me. I don't know. I'm assuming he's LeBron James's kid. That's all I've got on that.
That's
but looking at the games today, you've got a bunch of weird ones. Sweden plays Azerbaijan, and I know a lot of people are going to want to bet on Victor Gyokeres just because he's been such a wagon this season. He probably won't play. Sweden does not need to win this game. They could lose 100-0, and they're still topping that league. So be careful. But if Alexander Isak starts behind Gyokeres instead of him, take him to score because he is going to have a field day with this Azerbaijani defense.
All right. And we've got a pick from Sean Ritchie. He says LeBron 2+ 3-pointers, 2 or more 3-pointers, 1 or more steal is -120. It sounds like a lot of eyes, or it looks like a lot of eyes are going to be on that game. Mark Timoney says, is the Jameis Winston Experience the name of a band? That does sound like the name of a band. Anyway, all right. I think that's all the questions. Buckets just experienced an earthquake, clearly. You got to watch us on YouTube, folks. So much entertainment. EK, any closing thoughts before we go? Was there anything in the chat or anything that came up that you wanted to address?
No, I thought that it's very interesting. I'm with you on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, I keep looking, going, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? And the whole public's going to take the Steelers. I want to take the Steelers. The line's not moving. What am I missing? I was waiting to hear what you had to say. I thought your analysis was spot on. That's the game I'm going to start crunching later today.
Yeah, I mean, just like
this might be like when the Jets were favored against Houston and we just didn't understand why. And for me, that's put my hands up and just ride the wave that they're telling me to ride. And the Jets ended up winning that game too. So.
Yeah. And then the Jets were favored by 4 against the Indianapolis Colts, and a lot of people were putting money because that was 3.5 and it went to 4. Colts ended up winning outright. So I mean, some of these, I think we have to start looking at some of these teams. Like there's 3 or 4 tiers of teams. There's the really great teams. There's good teams. Like great teams would be like the Bills or the Chiefs or the Lions. There's the good teams like the Washington Commanders, like that tier of teams. And then there's like the average teams and then the really bad teams. And this year, I think there's way more really bad teams than there were in previous years. And those teams are so prone to getting blown out. Go ahead, EK.
But what's interesting is you're 100% right. But there are so many great Coach of the Year candidates on the other end, which I find fascinating. There's so many bad teams and so many great Coach of the Year candidates. Washington, Denver, Detroit, Pittsburgh. I mean, Arizona, any of those guys would be incredibly worthy in other years. And you're going to have guys outside the top 5 who've done amazing jobs with their teams. I mean, Mike Tomlin, how does this guy do it every year? Arizona, they're favored to win that division right now. What if Detroit goes 15-2? I mean, there's so many guys that could win Coach of the Year this year in a league where it has so many bad teams. It's that kind of quandary.
I think we're going to be talking Coach of the Year on the CBS Sports Network show today at noon. I'll be hosting that one, so make sure you jump on to CBS Sports Network and you check that out. Before we get to the recap screen, though, Buckets, what's going on? I know you're laughing at something.
Sorry, Freya knocked over my light. That's why we saw the earthquake. And I had two panels here. She knocked one over this morning and it broke, which is why my lighting's kind of funky. And she tried to take out my other one. So I don't know what she's fighting me on right now, but Freya and I are going through it.
All right, fair enough. CID says Tomlin Coach of the Year, hands down. Well, that's how it's looking right now. These things change down the stretch of the season, so we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. I'm on the Steelers Thursday night, -3.5. Buckets, Czech Republic, Georgia, both teams to score -110. Hungary, Germany, second half to have most goals at -110. EK, Marquette -5.5, Celtics -5, Mackenzie Brooks, Lakers -10.5, and AD, Anthony Davis, over 15.5 rebounds and assists at -105. What a great show we had today. We talked about a lot of pop culture in the show. That's what happens on Tuesdays when EK stops by and when all of you stop by in the chat. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for your questions, your comments, your like button hits. Really appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed with the 100,000 others that are subscribed to this channel. Everybody have a great Tuesday. More content coming, of course. Check us out on CBS Sports Network and a lot of other places. And check out this picks on SportsLine. Make sure you're subscribed and in the Discord. Again, make sure you're in the Discord. It is extremely active already. On behalf of EK, Mackenzie Brooks, Bucket, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.